The African National Congress today hosted a media dialogue on policy discussion documents for peace and stability and balance of forces. Well, for more on this, let's cross now to my colleague Natasha Phiri, who's been covering the press conference. Thanks very much, Natasha, for joining us. Tell us more.
Well, very good afternoon to you, Nompo. And of course, SABC here's quite a lengthy briefing here by the chairperson of the subcommittee of peace and stability, Mr. David Mahlobo, and NEC member Thabangwa Ketla, just taking us and engaging through those two tenets of the policy documents, peace and stability and the balance of forces. But I'm actually joined by Mr. Mahlobo himself, and we'll just engage further on what came out of the briefing. Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. First and foremost, you've called on various other political parties and ANC members to not jump the gun, to desist from jumping the gun. Those who have been calling for the president to step aside in regards to the charges that have been laid against him.
Well, it's a right thing to do. One of the things that we pride ourselves as people and as a nation is a choice of a kind of a society that is based on constitutional democracy. In this country, we do have processes, there are laws, and we should be able to respect them. One of the most important issues that we said during the briefing is that when the matter came to the fore, a case has been opened, charges have not been laid. We should be able to actually separate the matters because charges can only be laid by the relevant authority. But this authority, where matters have been brought in, their capacity is to investigate. And at a particular point, they will make a determination. Let's allow that particular process. Let's not interfere. But from an organizational point of view, we are very pleased. President has taken the leadership of the ANC into confidence on his own volition. He has said, one, is going to cooperate with the investigation, is not above the law, but equally, as part of the ANC policy, when there are matters that are being raised on your name, the first thing that you need to do voluntarily, you need to approach our Integrity Commission to deal with issues of integrity and morality. And the president, without being forced by anyone, he has made that decision. He will approach the Integrity Commission. And from our side as the ANC, we think let's allow the law enforcement agencies to do their work, but at the very same time, the Integrity Commission will look at the matter when the leadership is available in themselves, and then from there, as the organization will be advised accordingly.
You've also raised the issue of migration, which is one that came under the spotlight over the past few months. You've cited concerns with border management control and saying that, South Africa is not only to blame, but there needs to be a greater cooperation amongst other countries as well.
Well, the issue of migration, there is a positive part and a negative part. The positive part, people need to be able to move across various borders that sometimes are artificial. They need to be able to go there, they make friends. They need to create, to trade, build the economies, share skills, and do all these other things. The negative part is when there is a forced migration and people, they flow to other countries, and those countries, they don't have the capacity to manage that particular flow. And in the main, there is the biggest responsibility by all of us as members of the United Nations and the African Union. Let's manage migration. We can only manage migration by ensuring that there is stability in our countries, governance as well. The human security issues around poverty, inequality, and marginalization are actually being managed well. But from our own instance, South Africa, we remain a country that has a pulling effect. When it has a pulling effect, we have a lot of people that are coming here, either for very legitimate reasons, which are about instability, but we also have economic migrants. And these are some of the issues that have started to fan tensions amongst communities. Well, as government, we are addressing those issues. We are very pleased that there is a discussion between ministers of Home Affairs so that as a SADC, we can be able to manage these issues better so that we don't have unnecessary tension. But equally, we are very sensitive to the plight of our people. We need to be able to look at how do we ensure managing some economic sectors in a manner that it does not actually marginalize nationals more and more. But when it comes to issues of crime, our attitude as the ANC is the same. Everybody within our own borders, whether we're national or non-national, respect the law. And if you don't respect the law must be able to bite, act without any favor, fear or prejudice. But equally, we are not only worried about migration here, where we have our border management agencies, we're trying to work together, but we're also worried about migration in the world. Many Africans are perishing in the sea, and many of this destabilization that is happening around the question of Ukraine-Russia conflict, people moving all over, these are the matters that the global community must be able to come together using the existing instrument around the UN Convention, around the movement of people, asylum seeking and so forth, and refugees.
And of course, in regards to the Russia and Ukraine, I beg your pardon, in your policy documents, you've called on both parties to negotiate, to also find the root cause of the problems between the two countries.
Well, our analysis is that there are many kind of factors that have contributed to the situation where we are, and ultimately the response by the Russian Federation in some of those issues. We think that the United Nations has the biggest responsibility to play. And we also believe that the Security Council must stop to be fragmented. It must be inclusive, discuss these issues. At the end of the day, all people across the world, we yearn for peace, we yearn for development. Therefore, those particular issues, if you could see the way they've penned it out, they have caused untold suffering beyond the borders where the conflict is even felt in our own continent. The issues of prices of food, the prices of energy, fuel, and so forth is hitting us hard. But our view is that we are calling for an end of this conflict. And the only way we could have an end of this conflict is for the warring parties to come to the table, negotiate, find a settlement. But also those others who have contributed indirectly or directly, I can call it, they have a biggest responsibility too, to help us to stabilize the world, because the geopolitical tensions are not helping humanity. They are not helping to have a prosperous world.
Ms. Mahlobo, thank you so much for your time. Let me release you because I understand my colleague also wants some time with you. There you have it, Nompu, the subcommittee chairperson on peace and stability, Mr. Mahlobo. They're just engaging us on a number of issues, like that contentious issue of the beg your pardon, the criminal charges that have been laid against ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, asking for those political parties and ANC members not to jump the gun yet, as he has not been indicted. Only charges against him have been opened. But of course, other issues on those various policy documents, Nompu, is the issue of climate change. The ANC noting that, further floods and droughts are actually going to occur more, which raises the question of, the issue in KZN, those floods that affected and displaced so many communities and claimed the lives of several people. The issue of the November polls, Nompu, the ANC noting that they didn't perform so well at those last year's polls, indicating that they have dipped below 50%, and of course they've lost all those three critical metros in Gauteng, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and Tshwane. And we recently saw yesterday my colleague there, Samgele Masego, running that story and compiling a story where it said that the ANC's newly appointed regional chairperson, I beg your pardon, Dada Morero, hopes to claim back the city of Johannesburg.